All right, let's get started. Today, we're going on a pretty incredible journey, diving deep into the microscopic world that, believe it or not, powers everything that's alive. We're talking about the fundamental building block of life itself, the cell. So let's just jump right in with a huge question. I mean, think about it for a second. What's the one thing that separates a rock from a rose, a car from a cat? What is the actual secret of life? What is that spark that living things have that non-living things just don't? Well, the answer, believe it or not, comes down to one single thing: the cell. This tiny, unbelievably complex structure is the basic unit of all life. You see, anything less than a whole cell just isn't considered alive in the same way. It's literally the foundation of all biology. Okay, so this begs the question, right? How did we even figure this out? How did we uncover this secret that everything from the tiniest microbe to the biggest blue whale is made of these little units? Well, that story is one of the greatest scientific detective stories ever told. Our story really kicks off way back in the 1670s. A guy named Antony von Leeuwenhoek, using a very early microscope, became the first person in history to actually see a living cell. But, things were pretty slow back then. It took another century and a half before Robert Brown spotted that dark little spot inside the cell, the nucleus. After that, though, bam, the pace really picked up. In 1838, Schleiden says, hey, all plants are made of cells. And just a year later, Schwann says, you're right, and so are all animals. The picture was almost complete, but there was still one giant question left. And that's where Rudolf Virchow comes in with the final crucial piece of the puzzle in 1855. He gave us this Latin phrase, omnis cellula a cellula. And what it means is revolutionary. All cells arise from pre-existing cells. This was the clincher. Cells don't just appear out of thin air. They have to come from other cells. And that idea right there finalized what we now call the cell theory.
Okay, so we know what they are and where they come from. But here's the thing. Life isn't built on just one single blueprint. It's actually divided into two vastly, fundamentally different cellular worlds.
On one side, you've got your prokaryotic cells. Think of these guys as the old-timers. They're simpler, smaller, and they've been around for billions of years. We're talking about bacteria here. Their big thing is they don't have a true nucleus to hold their DNA, and they're missing all the little specialized compartments, or organelles. And then you have the eukaryotic cells. These are bigger, way more complex, and they make up everything you can see: plants, animals, fungi, us. The real game changer? Eukaryotes have that proper nucleus and a whole bunch of those specialized organelles, each with its own job. And this slide, wow, it really drives the point home. Just look at the difference in scale. On the left, you see how tiny and simple that little bacterium is? And then you look at the eukaryotic cell on the right, and it's just packed with complexity. It's not an exaggeration to say it's like comparing a tiny tent to a massive, sprawling metropolis. So let's stick with that city idea. What do you say we take a tour? We're going to shrink ourselves down and go explore the bustling, incredible metropolis that is a eukaryotic cell. First stop on our tour, the city limits, the plasma membrane. Now, this isn't just some brick wall. This thing is like the most high-tech border control you can possibly imagine. It's selectively permeable, which is a fancy way of saying it's a very picky gatekeeper, carefully controlling every single thing that goes in or out to keep the city's environment perfectly balanced. Okay, we're past security, now we're in the cytoplasm. You can think of this as the city's air, its streets, its ground. It's the jelly-like stuff that fills up the whole space. And it's not empty. This is the main arena. This is where all the action, all the chemical reactions that make a cell a living thing are happening 24/7. Now, over here, we have the city's massive factory and highway system all rolled into one, the Endoplasmic Reticulum, or just the ER for short. You see those parts with the little dots on them? That's the rough ER, and it's a protein-building factory. The other parts, the smooth ER, well, they're busy making other essential stuff, like lipids. It's a manufacturing powerhouse. Remember those little dots we saw in the ER? Let's get a closer look. These are ribosomes. And if the ER is the factory, these are the tireless construction workers inside it. You'll find them all over the city, and their job is one of the most important. They build every single protein the cell needs to live. So the factory makes all this stuff, but then what? Where does it go? Well,
It gets shipped over to the Golgi apparatus. This is the city's main post office and shipping center. It takes in the raw materials from the ER, puts on the finishing touches, sorts them, and packages them up to be sent to their final destination, whether that's somewhere else in the city or clear across the organism.
You know, a city this busy needs a ton of power, right? Well, that's the job of the mighty mitochondria. These are the power plants. They take in nutrients, use oxygen to burn them through a process called respiration, and produce a molecule called ATP. And ATP is basically the energy currency for the entire cell. Every single thing the cell does is paid for with ATP.
Okay, so we've seen the factories, the post office, the power plants. But who's running this whole operation? Every city needs a government, a control center. So let's head to the final stop on our tour, City Hall.
And that brings us here to the nucleus. This is City Hall, the absolute command center of the entire cell. It's so important that it's protected by a double membrane. And inside, it holds the most valuable thing in the entire city, the blueprints, the master plan for the whole organism, the DNA. Okay, get ready for this, because this fact is absolutely mind-blowing. Inside that microscopic nucleus in just one of your cells, you have about 2 meters, that's like 6.5 feet, of DNA thread crammed inside. That is an insane feat of data compression. It's like fitting a 20-mile-long piece of string into a tennis ball. So how on earth do you manage 6 feet of code in a microscopic space, especially when it's time to copy it all? Well, the cell is brilliant. It winds all that DNA up super tightly around proteins, organizing it into these compact structures we call chromosomes. They are the individual volumes in the city's library of blueprints, making sure every single instruction is safe and sound. So we've had this amazing tour of this tiny city, but let's zoom out for a second. What's the big takeaway here? Why does this unbelievably complex, microscopic world even matter? It all comes back to those 2 simple but incredibly profound rules we now call the cell theory. First, everything that is alive is made of cells, period. And second, every single one of those cells had to come from another cell that already existed. It's an unbroken chain of life stretching back billions of years. And here's the part that connects it all back to you. You're not just one single thing. You are a community. A civilization of trillions of these little cities, all working together in stunning coordination to create you. Every breath you take, every thought you have, it's all the result of this massive microscopic team effort. So I want to leave you with this one last thought to chew on. If a single one of your cells is as complex and as busy as an entire city, what does that make us? A whole galaxy of these worlds? A universe? It's a scale that is just truly, truly awesome to think about.